Hello, and welcome to the best of TSL with There's Still Life. There's Still Life is a nonprofit spiritual growth ministry that promotes spiritual growth, maturity, and transformation in the lives of people. We are excited to be celebrating 20 years of ministry, and throughout the remainder of this year, we're going into our archives to bring you the best of TSL.
Hello and welcome to our 31-day podcast. Today is day 12, and day 12 asks the question, do we really need what we think we need? The thought for this day was prompted by a question I heard while I was sitting in on a teaching. I was visiting a church and I was actually supporting a classmate of mine. And the question was presented, as Christians, how do we resolve conflict? Now, the question suggests that there's a different way, perhaps a particular way, that a follower of Christ is to resolve conflict that is uniquely different than someone who is not a follower of Christ or not a believer. Resolving conflict. In my book, I talk about two specific things that I was looking for inside of some conflict. First, I wanted an apology. And second, I wanted the person who inflicted the hurt to know the damage that they had done. I was surprised, and I write about it in my book, that was my thought, that was my thinking, that's where I was, that I wasn't more mature than that in that moment, but that's what it was. I had to actually stop and try to remember what the actual conflict was at that time, but I remember the moment like it was yesterday. I remember we talked about how impactful and life-changing a moment can be, right? Well, I can remember that moment. I can see myself sitting in that church. I see everything that's taking place, and I remember that conversation with God. I remember God telling me that although I wanted the apology and I wanted the person to know the damage, that I didn't need it. None of that was necessary for me to forgive and to move on. And I can say this, God was right. I mean, we know that God is right, but just to acknowledge it and just to say it for you today, when God says it, it's right and it's all good and it's okay. Colossians 3:12 says this. It says, forgive as quickly and completely as the master forgave you. This is what you do. You put on compassion, kindness, and humility, and you forgive quickly. If you read Colossians 3, you'll see it talks about the characteristics of the flesh that we're to take off and the characteristics of Christ that we're to put on. And so God gave it to me just like that. Just that simple. You can do this and move on. This action would actually immediately begin the process of healing for me. And of course, I would need him for that as well, right? For all of it. I would need him for all of it. To put on his attributes, to forgive quickly, for the healing. I would need him for all of it. You'll need him for all of it. For anyone who may be dealing with something similar, you'll need him for all of it. Today, I encourage you to ask yourself, what is it that you really need? What do you need to get over the relationship or to repair a broken relationship that needs to be mended? What do you need to get back on track with your finances? What do you need to work on your health? You know, it may not be a gym membership. It may be motivation to change the way you eat. You may have to get out and go for walks. What do you need? What do you need to release and let go? What do you really need to grow and to change? I hope you were encouraged by today's podcast, and I hope you'll meet us here again tomorrow for day 13. Have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast and that today's podcast prompted a new attitude, a new perspective, or a new outlook that would help you define moments in your life. We invite you to invest in your copy of Defining Moments, Define Your Moment, Change Your Life on Amazon. Simply search for Defining Moments by Nicole A. Davis. All proceeds go directly to There's Still Life to help enable us to continue our teaching mission. You can also purchase your copy directly from There's Still Life. Just inbox or message us on Facebook at There's Still Life, or request your copy by email at there'sstilllife@gmail.com.